Hey, thanks for being a part of the conversation. Let's play it forward. These are real people, real stories. The struggle to play it forward. Episode number 628 is with entertainment journalist and author Sean O'Connell. His new book is Bruce Willis, celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon.
What's going on, my friend?
What are you doing today?
I'm binging The Boys, which I've never watched before.
Really?
Because I'm doing a junket for them on Thursday. And so I'm trying my best to catch up. And it's fantastic.
Oh, my God. So you're still on season 1?
I'm on season 1, yeah.
Oh, my God. You have no idea what you're going to be hit with.
I can tell so far, yeah. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Where do you find time, then, to write with all the movies that you have to see as well as binge watch?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just make time, basically. You know, it's fitting it in between all of this. This is kind of on in the background as I'm doing sort of mindless work, but yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best to catch up. There's not enough time, obviously, with the amount of great stuff that's out there. So.
Yeah, because even as a writer, the one thing that I always learned, it's time you're not going to get back. I mean, it's like, okay, I put 3 years into this. Well, okay, that's cool. What else did you do? I put 3 years into this.
No, and most people don't understand how much time it takes to do the behind-the-scenes stuff, right? They just assume that stuff just gets produced, you know? Especially with the books, it's like, oh, well, you just turned this idea into, and it's like, no, this took years, years to put together and research. So,
yeah, you've done something that Bruce said that he wouldn't do, and that is create a story about himself. I mean, how is it that you jumped into that?
Just because I admired him. Well, I've always admired him as an actor. I've always loved him and gravitated towards his movies. I think he's one of the most sort of charismatic on-screen guys. When he announced his retirement, I wanted to make sure that his career got the appreciation that it deserved. You know, because I mean, he's a movie star, and with that comes so much focus on his personal life, and obviously the tabloids had a field day with him and him and the Planet Hollywood run and all of this stuff. But I think it gets overlooked or got overlooked what a talented actor he always was, starting in comedy, not being afraid to jump through genres. You know, of course he's going to get labeled as an action star, but you would see him try science fiction. You would see him in serious dramas. You know, some of his most rewarding and remembered roles were opposite filmmakers that he gave a shot to, whether it be M. Night Shyamalan or Tarantino early in his days, you know, to get on board with Pulp Fiction. He kind of boosted Rian Johnson back in the day when they did Looper together, and now Rian Johnson's a brand all in of himself. And I don't think Bruce gets a lot of credit for the amount of work that he did with those filmmakers to really expand their careers and expand his own.
When did he make that transition from actor to movie star? What film do you think that was?
Die Hard. Has to be Die Hard. You know, he was known for moonlighting at that time, and that was a Sybil Shepherd show, you know, but he kind of stole it, and their chemistry elevated it, and then he got Die Hard, and there was no turning back from that point on. But what he did, you know, really quickly at that point was try and distance himself from that personality, try to distance himself from just being the mindless action hero. And that's when he would do things like, you know, Hudson Hawk or Billy Bathgate or all these smaller roles because it meant that he got time opposite Dustin Hoffman, you know, or he would do Bonfire of the Vanities because it was a De Palma film. And so he really wanted to prove himself as a character actor, but kept going back to that action genre because those paychecks are hard to say no to.
Yeah, speaking of that character acting, I've always thought of Bruce Willis being the Brian Dennehy of our generation.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. You know, I'm even going to go a little bit further and say he could have had Paul Newman's career.
Really?
You know, yeah, he had that. They both had that rugged kind of blue collar sensibility that, you know, they're the kind of actors that maybe Harrison Ford even too, but I think Ford is too big of a star. You just feel like you could sit at the bar with them and, you know, trade stories back and forth over a couple of beers, and you would be comfortable opposite them. And you have to stop and think that, oh no, they're some of the biggest, you know, stars on our planet. There's something abnormal about them. So, you know, I think Bruce had that. I think he had it all of his life, all of his career. When
did you know that if Bruce Willis's name appeared on a movie poster, by God, you were going to be in those seats?
Oh, instantly.
Really?
I mean, Die Hard was and is my all-time favorite film. I think it just hit me at a very specific age when I was, developing my passion for movies, I think I recognized it as like a perfect movie. And then I only wanted to know why it was perfect, right? Like I wanted to analyze the screenplay. I wanted to start to really dig into shot choices. And I wanted to figure out what made him so charismatic, what made him be able to be this anti-hero that was so comfortable, thumbing his nose at the villain kind of thing. That was nothing I'd ever seen before. But, you start to realize then that you attach yourself personally to an actor and you want to start to follow their career. And it was almost like buying in at a stock at a really low, rate, and then watching it just sort of skyrocket. And Bruce just skyrocketed from that point on. And so I followed every step of his career from that point on.
You write about how Bruce is very much self-aware. Is it because he's a perfectionist or is he an introvert?
No, he's definitely not an introvert. If you follow his career and you see the way that he took advantage of, especially the Planet Hollywood success, before he became an actor, Bruce apparently was one of the top Manhattan socialite bartenders. Like, he was a guy who you had to go to wherever he was tending bar because he was that entertaining. Like, he was always going to be a star. It just was a matter of the cameras finding him, right? And I think the movie Cocktail that Tom Cruise starred in was based on the bar that Bruce, sort of cut his teeth tending bar. So, he had the show, he had the spinning bottles, he had the repartee. John Goodman, the other the famous actor, said he knew Bruce back when they were struggling artists in Manhattan, and he would go to Bruce's bar just to sit and watch him work. So Bruce is definitely an extrovert, and was comfortable hopping on stage and performing with musicians at the Planet Hollywood openings, and probably, if the movie thing didn't work out, could have had a career as like an R&B singer or, playing harmonica, just, bouncing around from club to club and making music, and probably would have been just as happy. Wow.
You and your editor, man, you guys are geniuses in the way that you make the chapters sharp and to the point. I mean, you get right to the details.
Well, I really appreciate that. And part of it is just I wanted to spend as much time as I could on each step of his career, and not get too lost. You could do an entire book on Sixth Sense, or Pulp Fiction, or even Armageddon, just to sort of examine why those movies were as popular as they were. But what I wanted to do instead was sort of break his career up into different genres and then talk about, some of the smash hits, but even some of the overlooked titles, movies like 16 Blocks, movies like Looper, that don't get the attention that I still think say a lot about Bruce as an actor. And through the course of those chapters, I wanted to also just sort of step back and analyze like what the industry was doing at that time. Bruce got in at the ground floor of the indie film push with Pulp Fiction, which Pulp Fiction obviously launched a million impersonators, people who wanted to do what Tarantino did. And I think the actors that get a lot of attention for the work they did in Pulp Fiction is John Travolta, Samuel Jackson, obviously. But Bruce holds down that incredibly compelling, weirdo third segment of that film, and it allowed him to kind of write a check and do what he wanted to do after that point, because he was a bankable movie star. So I wanted to cover as many bases as I could over what I think is an illustrious career.
Buying the town in Idaho. How about that?
You know what that shows is just how famous and how wealthy he really was. Having the ability to just invest in a town. But you know what? I guess that sort of speaks to maybe some of the introvert bit, that maybe he does have that I'm overlooking, because he wanted to get out of the Hollywood spotlight, right?
Yeah.
And this was a way for him to get back to the quiet life of how he lived before he became one of the most ultra famous people on the planet. When I'm writing about The Fifth Element, I didn't realize at the time until doing my research that movie opened the Cannes Film Festival back when it was coming out. And part of the reason why the festival wanted The Fifth Element was because they could get Bruce and Demi to come for the world premiere. And if you got them, it became a global sensation. But, having this town in Idaho that he and Demi essentially invested in and built up meant that they could escape back to that. Currently, I really appreciate these actors who are out of the system or try their best to be out of the system as much as possible. I think about Chris Hemsworth, who might be one of the equivalents of Bruce at this point in terms of popularity. He's got Marvel money. He can pick and choose his roles from this point out. He doesn't have to really work in order to keep himself sustained. But finished a publicity tour for a movie like Furiosa, he escapes back to, the Gold Coast of Australia and just wants to live a quiet life with his family and raise his kids and appreciate the life that he has. And I think that's a little bit what Bruce did with that town, and what he continues to do as he rehabs himself and gets through this health issue that he's dealing with. He's dropped out of the spotlight. He's just dealing with these issues with his closest family as they take care of him, and I admire that a lot.
Wow. Where can people go to find out more about you, Sean, and give you some love?
Well, so my website is Cinema Blend, and I have a weekly podcast called Real Blend where we dig deep into the filmmaking process. Obviously, the Bruce Willis book is coming out on June 11th, and I have 2 other books that people can research, one about Spider-Man, one about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. If you like my writing style, I've got a couple of books out there, but I'm on Cinema Blend on a daily basis.
I love it, man. Come back to the show anytime. The door is always going to be open for you.
I'd be honored. Thank you, my friend.
Well, you be brilliant, all right?
I'll try my best.